Board Game Social, hosted by Dean Leggett. Board Game Social, hosted by Dean Leggett. You might think you've seen something, but you ain't seen nothing yet. So many games, it's unbelievable. You couldn't play them all, no, that would be inconceivable. Well, Dean's gonna check some out for you, shine a little light on just a few. Board Game Social, hosted by Dean Leggett.
Greetings everyone, this is Dean with Board Game Social. I'm here today to present to you a review of a game that has been getting a lot of play here lately in my house. It got a lot of play throughout game clubs and conventions when it first came out, even though it was hard to get. And now that it's more readily available, maybe you finally got your copy as well. But we're talking about Dead of Winter from Plaid Hat Games. 2 to 5 players, semi-co-op game with some allowance points or action points, area movement, some little bit of combat with the zombies, hand management, all types of things going on in this game. Is everyone friendly? Maybe there's a betrayer. You never know. It's Dead of Winter by Plaid Hat Games. So how do you play Dead of Winter? Well, Dead of Winter has a lot of things going on in it. But don't get scared. Don't be scared off from the game. It is a simple game to understand. Once you play one round, you'll more than understand it. I've taught this game to kids that are 12, 13, 14 years of age, and they pick up on it very quickly. So it's not a difficult game. There's a lot of stuff going on in the game that you need to be aware of, and you're constantly kind of battling and making choices as to what you're going to do. So how's the game set up? And this is going to be a quick high-level overview, not going to be a playthrough or tutorial, so keep that in mind. Every game is going to start out with a scenario. Scenarios can be short, medium, long. They can be easier. They can be harder. There's lots of them that come in the game, but you're going to pick one for the entire group. Each player is then also going to have a secret agenda. The secret agenda is going to tell you whether or not you are loyal or whether or not you're a betrayer. No matter which one you are, you need to successfully complete your secret agenda, and it'll tell you what it is. And it's usually something like have more food than other people, have more followers, have a weapon. There's lots of different ones, but they're not overly difficult to be able to complete. So you have your main scenario objective, you have your secret objective for every player, and then what you're also going to find throughout the game is that every round you're going to have a crisis. And this crisis is going to force you to come together as a group, or at least in theory come together as a group, to try to stave off this crisis. And this one, for example, is have at least 3 fuel, because you need 1 for every non-exiled player. There's a 3-player game setup. So you need 3 fuel in order to win this crisis. If you don't win the crisis, then something bad's going to happen. This one, you're going to put out 12 more zombies. Sometimes you lose morale. There's different things that happen. On top of the crisis, during every round, you're also going to have to feed your people. Feeding your people is... best way to put it is, it's a nuisance, but it's a necessary nuisance. So how do you feed your people? Well, first off, you need to figure out how much food you have. So you look at the number of characters in your colony, and you look at how many innocent bystanders, or I think that's what they're called off the top of my head, I don't know. But these are people that they're not really characters, they're just people that eat food and take up space. They're going to become the bane of your existence. So add them up, there's 6 in here, divided by 2 becomes 3, and if it's an odd number, you round up. So here you would need 3 food for this turn. As you can see already, every turn there are so many things that you need to try to focus on, and you're just going to get to the point where you're not going to be able to probably focus on every one of them. Focusing on the main objective, focusing on your secret objective, trying to help with the crisis, trying to make sure there's enough food in the colony for everybody. There are so many choices in this game that sometimes you're just going to throw your hands up and say, we can't win this crisis. Just forget about it. Let's focus on something else. Sometimes tough decisions have to be made. So if you're not in the colony where you need food, that means you're out here, out and about, exploring. Why would you ever leave the colony? Well, leave the safety of the colony. Because out here is where you're going to gather resources to help with the crisis, to help with the end game, to help with your secret objective, to gather food. You're going to have to leave the colony, or some people are going to have to leave the colony and go out here and search. And you have these different locations, and like, for example, the police station, you're most likely to find weapons there. The library, you're most likely to find books, and this is like technology, things that you can equip to your people. Hospital, medicine. So when you go out and you try to search these areas, there is a downside to that, and that is every time you leave the colony, you have to roll the exposure dice. The exposure dice is pretty simple, 12-sided die. That means nothing happens to you. That means you take a wound, so you get a wound marker. That means you get frostbite. Okay, if you get frostbite, then if you don't get rid of it through medicine, then the very next turn it's going to hit you again. So wounds don't carry, I mean, they carry over, but wounds don't exacerbate like frostbite does. All right, so frostbite is pretty nasty because it can kill you pretty quick. Most characters only have 3 hit points and before they die. The other thing on the die is this, the tooth. If you get bit, you are killed. If you're by yourself, it's not a big deal. You die, you lose a morale for the group. If you get killed around other people, it can be very bad because it can spread very fast and start wiping out people left and right, which you're going to drop a morale every time someone dies. If the morale ever gets to 0, game over, you lose. Unless you're the betrayer, at which time, if you've also met your secret objective, then you win. Last couple of things here as far as some of the goodies that are in the game. You have the crossroad cards. The crossroad cards are going to be looked at the beginning of each person as they start to make their move. Movement, all your actions are based on your action dice. You're going to get the minimum of 3 dice to start the game. If you add a new follower, you're going to get an extra die, but you're going to roll these at the beginning of the turn, and you're going to put them in your unused action spot. And that's going to determine kind of what you can do. As you can see, each of your characters has an asymmetrical power that they start the game with, and then they also have a fighting ability and a searching ability. So this gentleman here, the sheriff, he needs a 2 or higher on a 6-sided die to kill somebody or kill a zombie, and a 5 or higher to successfully search somewhere. And his special ability is, as long as he plays an action die that's a 4 or higher, he can kill 2 zombies instead of 1 and only have to roll for exposure 1 time. Pretty good ability. Okay, so that brings us to the final thing, and that is the crossroad cards. These crossroad cards are very unique in the fact that every time a player gets ready to start their turn, the person to the right of them is going to look at this card and determine whether or not it triggers. Some of them will trigger as soon as the player starts their turn. Some of them may trigger when they move to a certain location. Some of them may trigger if they have a certain character under their control. So it may go off, it may not go off. They can be good, they can be bad. Sometimes there are choices to be made. Sometimes there's voting amongst the group. They add a lot of flavor to the game. They make the game a lot of fun. I think the knock early on when the game first came out, people were like, well, the confrontation cards, or the crossword cards don't seem to trigger very often. I think they trigger quite a bit. So I don't know if people early on were not reading them correctly or what the case may be, but they do seem to trigger with some sort of frequency. The final thing about the game is that you need to bear in mind you're always fighting the clock. You're fighting the number of rounds, and you're also fighting morale. Morale is going to drop, I said, whenever someone dies. If you fail these, sometimes they'll drop. Sometimes the crossword cards will cause them to drop. You can also gain morale. It can go back up if some of the crossroad cards, or sometimes if you defeat or you were successful with the crisis in excess of a couple of the requirements. So there's always something going on. There's always something you have to look at. And that brings me to what I like about this game. Well, first off, what don't I like about the game? Setup is kind of a pain. I will say that. It takes a little while. I've never been a big proponent of custom inserts, but this might be the game. I might finally pull the trigger and buy one, because if I could cut the setup time down, to only maybe 10 minutes, I would enjoy playing it probably a lot more. I always enjoy playing it, but sometimes when people are like, hey, let's play Dead of Winter, I'm like, all right, well, let me dig it out, let me get it set up. You go do something for 20 minutes or whatever. So the setup can be a little bit of a bear. And that's really, in all honesty, that's the only negative I have about the game. The things I like about the game, I like the fact that it's a semi-co-op. I like the fact that there may not be a trader in every game. That's fine. I actually enjoy it more when there aren't traders, because the pure paranoia that this game causes amongst players, because they're always thinking, are they a trader? Not a trader. Why are they doing that? That doesn't make sense. They shouldn't want to go there. Why aren't they contributing to the crisis? They haven't put any food in a while. Why are they spending food in order to manipulate their dice? Why are they causing more and more noise out here in the remote locations? There's so much going on that the paranoia just runs rampant in this game. And so whether there's a traitor or not, or a betrayer or not, it doesn't really matter. I've seen people get exiled that weren't traitors, that were just semi-suspicious on what they were doing, and I've seen betrayers go totally unnoticed until the end game. I'll give you a quick example. My son and I played this game a couple months ago at a convention, and there was no traders in the game. I had a secret objective where I needed to get more followers than everyone else. So there was a guy playing with us, and we didn't know him. And I was being kind of elusive in my comments about and the fact that I couldn't contribute a lot to the crisis. So he constantly was thinking that I was the traitor. Well, the reason I was doing that is I've kind of learned that in traitor games like this, the more someone accuses other people of being the traitor, the more it looks like they're the traitor. And so my goal was that he would keep accusing me of it, and someone would vote to exile him, and then he'd lose all of his followers, and then I could end up winning my secret objective. Unbeknownst to me, my son was instigating some of these problems, because as we were playing cards into the crisis, he was playing cards that would hurt the crisis. So if we needed food, he'd play fuel, which then will subtract the food out of it. He would play, junk into it when we didn't need junk. And so when that would happen, the other guy thought it was me, which just fueled his fire that I was the betrayer. And it wasn't me, and I didn't know till the game was over that it was my son, and he was laughing hysterically when it was over. I thought the other guy might come across the table and hurt him, but I thought I was very proud of him. I thought, boy, that's chip off the old block, stirring the pot a little bit, instigating some paranoia into the game. So I was very proud of him. Proud daddy moment. So that's Dead of Winter. If you haven't had a chance to play it, you really should play it at least once. I know it's a zombie game. I know that traitor mechanics are kind of, I wouldn't say they're overdone, but a lot of people are worn out on them. But do yourself a favor and try the game. Try it at a con or try it in a big group thing. You don't have to run out and buy it. They do have an expansion coming out for it, which I'm looking forward to, because they'll give us some new scenarios, give us some new secret objective cards, some new crossroad cards, it sounds like, and some new characters. So looking forward to that quite a bit. Other than that, I have nothing negative to say about it than what I said earlier. And positive, I just can't say enough about it right at this time. We haven't grown tired of it. We still play it quite a bit. It's a very intriguing and brilliant design. So check it out, Dead of Winter, Plaid Hat Games. Until next time, get out there and play some games. Play Dead of Winter. But more importantly, take care of yourselves and take care of your loved ones. See you later, everyone.